go. Ready?
Can we just tell, yeah, go ahead and tell us what the subject is, Russell?
Well, the subject is structured water, and we have Clayton Nolte here. He's worldwide on levels of consciousness, as well as the water he creates, which is the depth of water is structured water because everything works in a vortex. Now, I don't know everything about structured water, but I do know there's a part of that allows us to become more conscious of water as long as we become aware that we are water. And so I don't want to get straight out there, but I know Clayton, and I've met him several years ago, and a mentor of mine who actually told me that Clayton's water was over five times greater than all the other structured waters of existence. Now, if that's the truth, and I believe it is because I've known him as a person more than anything, that he was speaking the truth, and I've watched all of these things happen throughout the years that I've known him. I think is like this is might be their fourth year. But what I'm seeing happening in all the mentorships that we have, or the ability to see forward, or what some call psychic ability, I think all of this has been put in place, and Clayton is here to actually explain this and how it happens to water, what happens when we structure water in what we do for ourselves and for the creation we're around. I really do believe that in a biblical sense of the word, that all of creation is yearning for the redemption of man. If we understood that water was a very intricate thing in everybody's life rather than polluting it, we would understand ways of structuring the water, and that's where Clayton comes in. So thank you for asking.
So, yeah, and so what I've just learned is that there is a farming operation that is raising hemp, and they now are reaching out to see how do they apply structured water to their farm. I don't know the size of the farm. I don't know if you all do, but Clayton, will you explain to me what they've reached out to you for?
Well, they're looking for 1,500 gallons per minute of water. That's probably a 2 or 3 inch water line. I haven't looked it up to go back into my library and look up uh, how big a pipe has to be and how much pressure you have to have in order to create 1,500 gallons of water a minute. So this is typical industry farm, large farm uh, c- conversation. Basically, it's a plumbing uh, thing that is common in industry. Uh, my technology is not common to industry, basically because no one knows about it. It's not written about, and there's nothing out there eh, that has ever been taught about structured water. Structured water for farming is simpler than that. You know, what this individual is looking for equipment that can accommodate 1,500 gallons of water running through it and structuring that water. What I was just talking to Russ about and Janine is basically it's simpler than that. You don't need you don't need a huge piece of equipment. You can simply bypass a small amount of water uh, on a large pipeline, whether the pipeline is 20 inches or whether it's 2 inches. It doesn't
Mhm.
really matter the size of the pipe and the amount of pressure all you need to do is divert a small amount of water through a structuring unit and back into the main line. And all the water is structured. There's no point, really.
I was going to say, this might surprise you, but I do have some irrigation practice. I had a 5-acre orange grove for 15 years. And my husband's, David's about to arrive. He could maybe explain what we worked with gallons per minute. So we would have this big tank. So the water from a ditch, irrigation ditch water, would make its way through our property. We'd open valves, and that would send it up into the pump house, right? To the pump.
Yes.
And then it would do, that's where the bypass unit would be.
You could put a recirculating pump on a tank. If you have a tank of water, you just recirculate the water through a small structured water unit.
Yeah. And it
And-
would send it back out. And we could fire up the electricity and we would get a certain amount of pressure. But I could also just do it on flow because of this where it was on our property. And I could do no power and it would still put water out.
Yeah.
I know it.
I'm talking about how it's adapted. That's all on the farm. That's all on your individual end, how you get the water out to the plant.
So then are we consultants? Do we go there and talk to them about act like consultants and go out to the farm and say, this is how you would set it up? Or
what I represent is a technology that will guarantee you a 30% increase in bioavailability. It'll also guarantee you a 30% decrease in water consumption. And it will guarantee that the product that you are growing, whether it be a turkey, whether it be a hog, a cow, a dog, cat, human being, or corn, or oranges, it does not matter. What structured water will do is it will bring everything in its path into resetting its DNA and its RNA to become what it was originally designed to be.
Wow. Wow, that's great. All right. So, you know, what we have here, you know, is I remember the movie. What we have here is a failure to communicate with the rest of the world. You know, I'm going to tell you that was a movie I saw years ago. But anyway, right now we're having a real smooth understanding of what the era we're living in and the importance of this era and how we stand forth for everything and everybody. But I was going to ask you a question that was because we're talking about hemp, and of course, people using hemp would change the life of, I guess you're saying use instead of using plastic or bottles, or we could use hemp and we could make clothing, we could do all this stuff. It was much more natural. I mean, you can tell that kind of story. And we could develop that in terms of what we were doing with Clearwater Vision of creating a vision of water that's existing everywhere. But the other thing, and I written down strawberries, because I know you talked about that before, and we also are looking at a worldwide bird flu epidemic, or any kind of flu epidemic, we're looking at that. But the bird flu is another thing with economics, and of course, I was thinking of lakes, and then we get into the neutralization thing, and of course, we've talked about Brown's gas, and of course, you know so much about Brown's gas, and I was so surprised to hear that, when I met you, that is something that's within my heart. But neutralizing is a different process in the sense that we've talked about, because we're talking about a stoichiometric mixture, and would that enhance? And I always thought, in meeting you, that was the biggest step that I could make in terms of the explanation of Brown's gas, which is a neutralization thing where you would destroy something that is unnatural to make it natural. And my whole life has been brought together with that. And so I'm asking you, Clayton, this importantest thing is if it can do something with bird flu, and which you've shown it has, could we end up begin the process of bringing this neutralization part where we could enhance even primary water to come out of the ground, more smoother. And so I know it's a big step, but is that a possibility?
Yes.
Wow. That's all he needed was a yes. I think I love that part, because I think what we've looked into these things and, and the study of Clear Lake as being the oldest lake, but mostly, enhancing the water that exists, within or below the mantle.
Let's go back to that farm. We really need to resolve one issue now.
Yes,
The initial question here is about farming and structured water.
right.
And so again, the application of the water on the farm, whether it be irrigation, drip irrigation, you just simply go to the source of the water and structure it.
Mhm.
And everywhere the water goes, it's going to change everything in its path. In drip irrigation, uh, what grape farmers find is that when you structure uh, um, the ground actually, in a lot of places, is white from calcium that is in the water. So that calcium kind of builds up on the topsoil. And that calcium, if you're planting seeds, prevents the seeds from getting down in deep enough into the soil. And once they do get down, then if the calcium buildup is heavy, they can't actually grow. So when you add structured water pretty much instantaneously dissolves the surface calcium
Mm.
and it allows seeds to mature and actually grow. So as that calcium is being dissolved, what structuring does is it takes that calcium down to where it's made available to the crop, whether it's grapes or whether it's oranges or no matter what the crop is.
I'd
Everything
like to re- oh, I was
go for it.
gonna say I'd like to remind the farmers that will listen to this recording in the near future, whether it's hemp or food or yeah, yeah, produce, grow, whatever it is. This also reduces the needs for gypsum, the additives that they're doing to try to make their soil work for them, and I mean the reduced cost of all of the other applications they do to their crops and their fields to try to get any hope out of the soil they're working with right now, that all that cost goes away. And you're saying 30% greater yield, right, in their product
Yes,
and less water usage.
yes.
You don't have to sell this to anyone. This is a gift at any cost. It's a gift, and I want you to hear that. This is the solution for our farmers. This state has been fighting for water, right? Everybody claims that they got to pay for this water that's channeled around, and when it gets to them, it has no life in it.
Right. This
So they're
puts life back into the water.
well, that's what I'm saying. Well, the water and yeah, the my God, could you structure an irrigation ditch and get structured water into the irrigation ditch at the top?
Yes,
I mean, this is solutions.
yes,
Big.
yes.
Saving the state of California's agricultural industry.
And in Texas, what they found is Yes, they got a 30% increase in their crop. Yes, they had a 30% reduction in water, but their biggest thing that they talk about is in their fields they had huge fire ant problems. With structured water, the fire ants go away.
So it's a pest deterrent, or somehow the balance of the nature, or language is poor right now. I'm pretty tired,
Balance.
but it's going to start correcting itself, and the negative pests, or the ones that we think of negative, that they would come and spray for, or
Yes.
have to
All the
spend more money.
predators disappear. They
Thank
leave.
you. That's the language. Oh, I'm going to mute.
So this is really amazing because mostly because of what we look at as on the spiritual level, we can't seem to get it in our heads as human beings that this is a spiritual thing before it's a scientific thing. And that's what our goal has been for a long time. And of course, we kept spiritually, we're getting more evidence of the reason why these masters have come to us of self-realization. And I'm not pushing that, but I do want to say that we're all self-realized, that we're all part of that goal and that's how we're talking in terms of, but mostly we look at all of these inventions and things that have been created throughout the years, and hardly any of them had gone through. The things we can do with our minds and our hearts connected is the only thing that's necessary in this situation. And that's how I met you, Clayton.
Yes.
Power.
We, and what you're talking about is energy.
Yes.
The however is the the world is managed through the physical, basically chemistry.
Mhm.
All water is managed by chemists, the physical science.
Mhm.
Structuring water is energy science, physics.
Yes.
And 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 I'm going to say this, Janine, you've talked about your community. Uh, it's getting past the physical scientist because he cannot see what I represent. He cannot see energy. The however is at your cellular level, and even medicine can't see energy. They they rely on chemistry. They rely on medicine
And
because there's
that's,
money in it, for one thing.
I say, that's why we're so sick, as a country, at least. It's because they're relying on, they're approaching medicine that way rather than spiritually, and we would have actually solutions, and we would have what we call health if we were taking it from your approach that
So
we're talking about right
hear
now.
me. At your cellular level, your cells cannot receive anything physical or electrical. They can only receive energy. And that energy has to be structured because the cell has no openings. It has no doorways. There's no way into a cell. The way into the cell actually is by structured liquid, and that liquid has to have a viscosity of lower than 46 dynes. 46 dynes or lower. dynes. Look it up. So when water, and it takes water or blood to carry the energy of the food you eat and drink. Everything you eat and everything you drink goes out your elimination system. So what feeds you is the energy of the food you eat and drink. Everything
Okay.
else goes out your elimination system.
So
Medicine,
higher vibrational raw foods versus cooked, the, I'm sorry, lifeless or low energy diet. Kind of.
so if you if you are looking to be healthier and you have a handful of drugs here and you have a handful of supplements here and you're going to ingest them, I suggest the first thing your body has to be is hydrated. If your body is not hydrated, your cells cannot react from the supplements or the vitamins or the medication. 90 95 96% of it goes in the toilet
Which
because
ends up back in our water system.
you can't even digest it. So everything needs to be hydrated. And this is the same with the orange trees and the avocados and everything out there. And I want to remind farmers that are doing hemp. 80 years ago, 80 years ago, hemp grew naturally. It grew from rain, and rain is structured. That rain at that time, 80 years ago, was pure and structured. Today, however, you have 1 to 2 tons of carbon hanging over your head. And actually, that carbon is really great for growing things. It's not great for water systems. Carbon is acidic. Today, when it rains, the rain is bringing the carbon down and adding it to the oceans, lakes, rivers, streams. And our food cannot live in a acid rich environment.
Either way we're going, we're on the wrong path, and we're at a point of. I had heard you say earlier that the scientists won't listen to this, or
They won't.
they don't deal with energy, the physical scientists. But right, I feel like this can just go directly from your company to the farmers. There's no scientists blocking, right?
True.
Okay.
However, grain farmers, a lot of farmers are under the directive of chemical companies, or let's say, uh, uh, like Monsanto, where they actually have created geomet uh, genetically modified seed, and which will grow a tomato-looking tomato,
Mhm.
and looks like a tomato, color of tomato, but with very little food value. Insufficient food value to support life.
Right away, it came to me. There's no life force in the tomato, or the minimal, so that it's not just dead. I mean, the life force is so absent there.
Right.
Um,
That's true with the majority of food in our grocery store.
I,
When they pick apples, they're picking them 15 days before they ripen by the sun. It's the sun's energy that gives the apple.
Yes.
and it's sweet.
Back to the sun as
Back to the
yeah,
sun.
to the sun. Yeah.
Anyway, we can't cover it all in one session. Uh,
No.
you know, I'm just saying structuring is a solution. And not only will that solution benefit everything that you're growing, it'll benefit you significantly.
Mhm.
So if we go
But
back to the strawberry field,
Clayton, Clayton, we can get the ball rolling, and this is the ball rolling. What you're saying and doing, and I think you've connected to the right
hold
people.
the ball.
Yeah, and so we have Christopher waiting to talk to us, who's connected to these camp people, and they're ready to go. I think that would be great, but I also think that we have to accommodate a lot of negative people in the sense that continue to say no. So we getting the ball rolling would allow people to experience it, even a small amount of people, so that we can get that ball rolling. And that's what we're here for. We're not here for greed, you know.
Again,
I
Clayton,
hear the words.
I
Go.
was going to say, as the inventor, your work is done. I have the ability, because I do have some farming background and I do understand a little bit of the language, and we just created this video that explains what needs to be, how to apply this.
Mhm.
I have a very close contact of mine that is an organic consultant. He consults organic farmers around this Tulare County in the Central Valley here. We've got Christopher, who has some league of farmers that want this. There's nothing blocking this. It's
Okay.
just about letting them know how simple it's going to be, and further reducing their costs, further simplifying. And what I wanted to say about the spirituality, so even if the farmer's goal is to have higher yields and higher value product and higher money eventually, I mean, that's the outcome, the structuring device is still going to operate properly. Am I right or wrong?
Yes. Yes. Right. Right. And all my products except the personal handheld are stainless steel, so they can withstand direct sunlight. Plastic and plastic products, basically in time, the sun breaks down and makes them unusable.
Usable. So on from Russell, I've never to negate the spirituality, but what I want to add is that rather than making sure that they have the right spirituality in place when they put this device in, I feel like the spirituality will arrive with the water as it's happening.
Yes,
It's and then it
this
spreads into the neighborhoods and the neighboring farms.
this will create uh, a it will create it it automatically creates people being more family oriented, more no stress, and everybody being genuinely happy.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing, especially in a corrupt world like this, we can just imagine that, but I want to say, Jeannie's put together a thing with Jim Brown Eagle, in a couple days. And, can you advise Jeannie what we can do, with the respect of what you're doing? And she's going to be on radio program on Tuesday, late afternoon.
I can coach her in any direction she wants to go. It kind of always kind of depends upon the subject and how the moderator wants to see things go. You know, simply, if you want to talk about uh, structured water is uh, it's pretty, it has a simple statement. The statement basically is when you structure water, it neutralizes all toxins and hydrocarbons.
See,
And
what I
and
mean? See, I told you. Just kidding.
No, it's okay. We're good. I don't want to start crying.
it neutralizes all toxins and hydrocarbons. Those are physical chemicals harmful to life.
Oh.
And when you neutralize it, basically, what structuring does is it changes one component within those physical in that physical chemistry. It changes hydrogen. It makes hydrogen perfect.
Yes.
When you make one atom of hydrogen perfect, every atom of hydrogen it comes in contact with is made in its image perfect. So it changes the chemical profile of all the things that people, whether they're talking about, the only thing most people can remember is calcium, or they can remember fluoride. chloride. Those are the only things they know. Mercury, maybe, arsenic, maybe, uh, lead, maybe. This makes all adversarial toxins benign. They can no longer harm. That includes nuclear radiation,
Yes.
another toxin.
You're gonna make me cry now. Now you're gonna
Yeah.
make me cry, you know.
So
So,
it neutralizes all toxins and hydrocarbons. Hydrocarbons are oil products.
So tell me now, tell me,
I'm not done yet.
yeah, okay, I'll shut up. I promise you. Yes.
Thank you. It also eliminates all bacteria, viruses, molds, and pathogens. These are living organisms, and they thrive where there is little or no oxygen. When you structure water, you automatically have a 25% increase in free oxygen. This free oxygen kills all bacteria, viruses, molds, and pathogens. And they
Okay.
can never be what they were before. The other thing that structuring does is if there's anything good in the water, it makes it amplifies the good and makes it instantaneously available to the cellular level of all plant all well to the cellular level of all human beings, plants, animals, everything instantaneously available.
So are you ready? Can I speak now? Am I ready? Are you
Yes,
ready for me?
you can have the floor. Thank you.
So you know my history of Brown's gas. You know my relationship with Dr. Hugh Brown, who created it, and he said, you know, the sun is water. All of this is created in those terms, you know, and so on. Can you compare what you're doing with what Dr. Hugh Brown was doing, and can we enhance both of them so that we can get to point A to point B on this planet?
Can I speak now?
Yeah, I'm ready, you know.
Yes. I can compare them easily.
Yes,
Both of our technologies are viewed as impossible.
yes, I know, I know.
So, yes, structuring changes water. Brown's gas changes water, and basically, it ionizes water. There's tens of thousands of ionizers out there ionizing water. The systems just don't uh, evaluate or, let's say, bring the water forth uh, like Ewell Brown learned to do.
Right.
And so one thing you might consider here is, you know, uh, the one thing that you demonstrated. I mean, demonstrating that you could pass a 19,000 degree flame over your arm and not burn the hair on your arm, or across a rose petal and not brown out a rose petal. You could weld an aluminum can to a rock with one flame. These are
Yes.
possible things.
Yeah.
Science can't see this. But the
Mhm.
biggest thing that I see is when you demonstrated Brown's gas, you also cranked up a four-cylinder motor and ran it on water.
Yeah. Mhm.
You think about that. How much do people spend for gasoline just to go to work and come home when they could be burning just water?
Yeah. I know.
and what I heard you say earlier, that when you put the structured water and it structures hydrogen, making it perfect, I believe you said?
Yes.
Okay. And then that having perfected hydrogen, using that, wait, either way, structured water. Go.
It's a little more complicated when you're going to bridge the gap. It's just a little more complicated. Uh, 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 Russell uses how do you pronounce that?
Stoichiometric mixture between,
Stoichiometric mixture.
yeah,
That's the bridge.
yes.
That's the bridge that uh, that you have to cross in order to put browse gas into this reality.
And we're getting closer to that. Thank you, Clayton. I do understand we're getting closer to that. We're looking at the original Brown's gas machine, which is different, and I hope I don't offend everybody else that copied that, but I was there. I understood. I poured water in a machine and it came out equal to the surface of the sun. That was a miracle for me, but most people have to feel it in their bones, and it is using it for other things and so on, but neutralizing is a whole different process. That's what I've learned and so on. And that's why I would say God brought us together here, the three of us actually, in the sense that
We both need a handler.
yes, right. So I know we're saying this perfectly, and I know you always tell me I'm gonna kick you in the ass. You always say that to me. And, I don't want people to know that think that that's what you're actually doing, but if it wasn't for that, including all of these stories that we've had in the 5 years or 4 years that we've been doing this, it's miraculous. It's a spiritual thing that I will never ever forget.
And it got you to finish your book.
Yes, and it's getting closer, and Jeannie is helping with that. But I'm looking to see how much time I can get to finish it, but it will be done. I mean, that one part of the book is done. It's available. You can buy it and so on. But there's missing points that I think people would need to know because of our meeting with you, Clayton. It's very important for us to continue that book. And it's not just me. It's not about my book. It's a book that comes from spirit, or you might call God, or however you replace it to be.
Yeah, I feel like it's coming from, yeah, Mother Earth, Mount Canocti,
Right.
expressing herself and getting our attention.
Yeah.
Simply, so simple, and yet all everything. Anyways, this structured water solution structured water can be fed into the lake.
Yes, and it will change the lake. We've already
And then
done that several times to Clear Lake. And
Mhm.
every time that you structure the lake, think about this. It neutralizes all toxins and it eliminates all bacteria, virus, molds, and pathogens. It'll take 5 to 10 years for Clear Lake to reclaim the toxicity it had before Russell Anderson came into the light.
Yeah, that's a
um,
name. That's a scary name.
something I have to say, because you say all bacteria. Is there any positive bacteria that should be in the lake, or it will recognize that and not take it out?
Yes, there is positive bacteria. There's positive bacteria. That
And the
bacteria
fungi. Yeah.
basically uh, is the bacteria that would be used to decompose waste, uh, some material waste from from humans and from animals, uh, like a septic tank waste. That's positive bacteria. And so structured water enhances that bacteria and makes it more proactive, more efficient. So
It's better.
structured water makes everything that is beneficial more efficient, and everything that is not beneficial eliminates it. Simple. It's where we want to be. And it instills in humanity conscious awareness, potentially making everybody a master of consciousness. I would add whether they want to be or not.
I was going to say effortlessly, like whether they asked for it, it's just
And
energetically
yes, and
structuring them. Yeah.
those who resist may run,
Mhm.
but eventually, hopefully, there'll be no place to run to.
That's a goal. There- There's no place that isn't
So there
high
lies
structure.
another question, because we watch all this stuff happening and we look to see if people can just face that negative point that they think they're in because they make money off of polluting water. And so once we recognize that there's no other way to go except for cleaning the water and allowing water to flow freely, what can we do from that point on? Because just teaching one person to be able to understand that one point is a powerful force. It truly is. And so what do we go from? What can we do to promote this in a larger level?
uh,
So, oh,
get past the resistance.
Mhm.
Um,
what I'm feeling is, so right now, just talking about the farming industry and how much harm it does, its runoff of its farms is toxic. It's hurting everything they're doing is nearly everything is hurting the earth. It's depleting the earth. There's not enough we're getting low quality food. So this solution to farming is turning that around. So we're reducing the toxicity. There's farming around Clear Lake. So now you want to go towards like the gold mining, those people around Clear Lake? Who's, I mean,
it it can benefit them also.
mhm, I'm sure.
So structuring mercury uh, makes mercury into a benign mercury called cinnabar.
Yeah. Yeah. And as I say, and Cinnabar is kind of attractive and still has a potential to assist or be a tool in an industry. Is that true?
True. Still
Yes, there is therein lies the anger of the mercury or the cinnabar that that is real. This whole understanding that mercury and other heavy metals and so on are angry because they were used in an improper way and they brought together wrong vibration by humanity itself.
you can put that
Almost
in
as if the Cinnabar was enslaved to do work for such a shameful
well,
reason.
mercury was applied to extract gold from the earth,
Yes.
and cinnabar will do the same thing. I don't know how the actual difference between how to work with it. I mean, I was never in that environment, but it still is a heavy metal, and heavy metals have a lot of other applications. So, uh,
Yep, all of creation is yearning for the redemption of man. it's our vibration we need to shift and change, and that will bring in I guess the angelic world. I don't know, it'll bring in the water that's below the mantle as well. So
So nature has the answer all the way around.
yes.
If it's not structured water, there are other natural uh, remedies in a sense for, say, like fossil fuel, oil spills on oceans, oil spills in lakes, wherever oil spills are, or uh, or what we as humans have applied to the soil, salts. Uh, all of the 1920, I believe, a German scientist developed um, the fertilizers that we use today on all crops, on all gardens, and it's all based on salt. There are several countries in the world who have outlawed those salt-based um, um, minerals, or let's say for growing, basically because if you keep adding salt to the soil, what happens? Eventually, nothing can grow. There's a simple remedy for that, and it's natural. It goes
Well,
back to your enzymes. It goes back to what you were talking about one time with brownie, with your.
Yeah, microbes and enzymes. Yeah.
So, so microbes can be created by nature. You take decomposing trees, which eventually turns into coal. You take young coal and basically uh, young coal, or um, I'm getting kind of far off into the chemistry. The chemistry of young coal, which is a high pH, um, decomposing trees or leaves, high pH, and you do like uh, like when you create a beer, basically you add a little bit of sugar,
Right.
creates a beer batter,
Hmm.
and that creates fulvic acid, which is a low pH.
Hmm.
They're they're all from the same source. You combine them, and if you spray that onto uh, say, a lake or ocean that is laden with oil, which again is from the earth. Um, so you spray uh, that mixture onto oil. In 24 hours, that oil becomes food, plant food, or it becomes food for the ocean life, and it will consume the oil. The other thing that mixture will consume is the salts in that have built up in the soil.
Wow. Wow. Hmm.
It's all simple chemistry.
So is this the reason that I'm so good at dry rot? Is there
Sure it
so,
is. You're
is there
gonna
a correlation there?
yes, there is. There has to be because we were learning all about how the earth consumes certain items, which is a tree or something, but
remember dry rot is based on the moon.
yeah, yeah.
So I grew
So
up on a farm in Minnesota, and uh, I when my family change from raising cattle to grain farming, they had like 55 miles of fence. And the big machinery got tangled up in fence. So we as the farm decided to remove all the fence. Anyway, I was a teenager and I got to drive the 1949 Ford tractor, which
Mm.
had a drawbar that you could drop all the way down to the ground, and it had about a 3 foot movement that you would come up.
Mhm.
I would back up to a fence post. Somebody would just wrap a chain around the fence post to attach to the drawbar, and I'd pull the posts out of the ground, Ford tractor. When we come to a corner post, or let's say a corner in the fence, or a gate post, that was wood. And when I pulled them up, they were healthy. No decomposition. And those posts had been in the ground maybe 80 years or 100 years or longer. Why? I asked my dad, why? How can that be? He said, because they were put in the ground at the appropriate time of the moon, new moon.
Well, Adrian would like to hear about that. I'm sure she's an astrologist, I can tell.
uh, you know, it's just what it is. Anyway,
We're in the new moon energy right now, fellows.
yeah, there's a lot of things about nature, and if you really want to know, go get pick up a copy of the current Farmer's Almanac. Everything is in there about what the moon, the qualities of the moon for this time of year. Everything.
Well, everybody, thank you. It's fun how we can do this, and then we can put this in. I think this video is going to be amazing. I really do, and I think it should be heard by especially farmers today. I think we'll be able to use this and spread it around. And actually, we can take different categories of structured water and use them, in different ways. But I think if we can just get this one going and know that putting spiritual in front of physical or science, we will be able to accomplish a
So,
lot. And so I want to thank everybody, which is only two of you. It's kind of neat because the meeting we'll have on I guess on Wednesday, or we're gonna have one on Wednesday. Yeah, I think it's important that, some of us can watch this video, at least parts of it, so that we can understand how important your work is, Clayton, and how we were able to run in together and be, in a sense, comrades. I don't want to call it comrades. It's not really, but
but Jeannie, if
we
you have
we're all,
anything,
yeah.
anything that you want to bring, that you want to discuss on the radio program, uh, just ask me. I mean, if I can give you some clues as to how to implement structured water into a conversation. Um,
Yes, that will happen. Believe me,
Yeah.
believe me.
Yes. What we'll do right now is we will absolutely thank Clayton for clarifying, for people to see this later today and in the near future and beyond, to absorb and see how many applications and how easily and simply and radically this will begin to change things, to bail the farmers out of situation they want to get out of, to bail humans out of a situation we want out of. It's just right in our hands. It's Russell found Clayton. I don't know exactly how you found each other. I know how I found Russell. And now I'm ready to make sure that I have some people already wanting to see this video right now. And I am connected with someone who's working with local farmers here in the Central Valley, and he wants to bring them solutions, and they're ready. They need help. We've got so many issues, and what you're telling me, right, what I'm hearing and feeling and knowing is structured water is the answer to nearly all of them.
Yes.
I don't know how I ended up here in this conversation today.
I really
But,
like that
thank you, brothers.
in the back of you, you know, it's really nice. And the universe, on the other hand, you know, I like that too. Someday I'll get a screen like that. Thank you.
We'll teach you how to do it, Russ. You already have one.
Oh,
You
really?
just don't know where it is. All right. So we get a little giggle at the end.
I love you guys, you know. Love, you know, it just.
All right. I'm gonna end the recording. Thank you, everybody. And boom, where's my end? See how good we are?